Good afternoon, everyone. Futures Brizio here. It is about quarter to 6 p.m. on Tuesday, January 21st. Hope everybody had a great day. And as always, as we get started here, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. If you're just finding it for the first time, make sure you ring that bell notification. And of course, any questions, comments, leave them down below. So as per usual, we'll just do a quick wrap here and let you know what I see going on and if I had any trades going or what have you today. And so let's just jump right in. So I made a couple of references to this in previous videos, but I like to use the cash charts for my futures trading. So in other words, so you have futures contracts, which are obviously out months for trading a particular asset. That's why they call them futures, and they go by months. But there's also the cash market, which is basically what they call a CFD. And again, it's basically what the cash market is. And so I like to use the cash market chart sometimes, in addition to using the futures chart for my analysis, because again, the futures chart is limited to just that particular contract month. So especially if you're looking at a higher time frame, it doesn't give you, as to me, as good of information, because you only have so much price data going back, and the higher the time frame you go, the less data you're getting. So I like using a CFD chart, and so normally they coincide very well together, but just I want to show you an example where it doesn't necessarily coincide, and it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out from purely a technical standpoint. And that's natural gas. So this is the CFD chart. This happens to be the 4-hour chart, and you can see we've maintained this trend line pretty well here on the 4-hour chart. You can see we're right back at it again currently. Now, if I took a screenshot of my futures chart. So here's the 4-hour futures chart. This is the March contract. You can see it's 4 hours. This is a screenshot. And you can see this one looks completely different. If you had zoomed out, you would see that there was a trend line coming up here, which has been broken. So it doesn't look the same. We don't have this double top up here. We don't have this recent swing over here. We don't have any of that. And we don't even technically have a current trend line rest like we see right here. And so I wanted to point that out because there's a couple of ways this could go now, right? So again, from a technical standpoint, we could see price hold this trend line and start to go up again, or and this is the CFD chart, remember, right here where my cursor is. Or we could break this trend line and start moving down. Now, if we start moving back up, then that would kind of mean that this support area on the futures chart held and we're moving back up. If price goes down off the CFD, breaks lower, then that means this downtrend that started on the futures chart already will play out, because we've already moved down quite a bit. So it'll be interesting to see which one of these scenarios plays out. Do we get a hold of the trend line on the CFD, which would also be probably be a reversal on the futures chart off this kind of support area, or does it break through, just kind of confirming what we're already seeing in this downtrend on the futures chart? But like I said, normally they do coincide pretty well, and I can show you let's look at copper. So here's the 4-hour copper chart. If we just zoom in a little bit on our current price action, and then if we go over to copper, which you can see I'm in a long position. If we look at copper, and let me see if I can bring this back up and maybe try to shrink this a little bit if I can. You can see here, whoops, I didn't want to go that far. And we'll close this out right here. Okay, you can see on copper, we have pretty much the same pattern, right? If you just look at recent price action, breakout, pullback, up, a little more pullback, another new high, and then this kind of three-leg move down, which at least from a trend line standpoint has been broken. So this is the CFD on the left. This is the futures chart on the right. You can see they pretty much look the same. And that's typically what you see. There's always going to be some subtle differences because you're looking at a cash chart versus a futures chart. But normally this is going to be pretty close. I just like using the CFD chart because it can be a little cleaner sometimes in the futures chart, and it gives you more historical price data than you're going to get on any particular futures month. But you can see I'm holding a long position on this. There is obviously this swing area right here. That is a potential management spot. So as this, assuming this plays out, as it approaches this area, I'll look at it to see whether it's something I want to hold beyond there. But if we do go back to the CFD chart, you can see we had this long-term downtrend here that was broken. We had several touches, and then back on earlier this month, maybe about 2 weeks ago, we broke this trend line to the upside, and now we've been moving higher. And technically, this uptrend has not been violated. We have this swing right here that held, and then we have this little 4-hour trend line, this mini trend line that has apparently been broken and may suggest that the uptrend continues. So I just want to point out, and this is an example of where the CFD chart is going to give you better history and look back period than your futures chart's going to. So I'm looking at these CFDs on TradingView. It's just the easiest place to go and find them. But I just wanted to point out that, again, normally they do look the same. But again, the advantage is the CFD will give you a little bit more price history than the futures chart. But occasionally, like I showed you with natural gas, you will have them not agree with each other or not have the same look. And those are really interesting to me to see how those play out, and can help reinforce, which one may potentially be better in the long run to follow. So I'll keep you updated on that one. We'll see how that goes. All right. So just going back to the futures chart. So we just talked about copper. So we'll move on from copper. I did take a trade today, which is not showing on here, on DAX. I got out a few hours ago when price just broke above these highs. So it was a small trade, but I'm already out of it. You can see price is still going. I really was hoping we would see, a bigger pullback in the DAX so that I could really kind of load up on a bigger trade. But as long as it's continuing to trade away from the trend line on these short time frames, I'm going to be a little cautious because at some point we will get a more meaningful pullback here. This was kind of a fair value gap area down here I had mapped out previously, but until we get a more substantial pullback, this is only an hourly chart, then I'm not going to really load up too much on this. I'd love to see a bigger pullback into the trend line, kind of like we saw here. Whereas I took the trade basically away from the trend line. That's not my favorite setup, although obviously it can go a long way that way. From a risk to reward standpoint, I'd like to see deeper pullbacks before I really kind of load up. But obviously this is still a bullish market, and I'll continue to look for longs here. So oil is another one, again, that's pretty much mirrors what's going on the CFD chart, and that is we are currently in a downtrend. We did put in this new high. This is the 4-hour chart, and now we are moving lower now, and we are following this trend line down. So I do think that we will make more progress to the downside here. Now that we've taken out this area right in here, which is kind of like the last pause before this high was put in, I do think that, the next targets are maybe around here at this level. Although I think from a fair value gap, this has already been mitigated with this candle right here. It came down deep into this candle. So even though we may see a reaction around this here, I think if price continues down, it will take this area out. And so that would lead me to this area down here as being the next logical support area. So I'll continue to look for shorts. It's just kind of been a timing thing where I haven't been able to really catch a nice pullback to these trend lines. A lot of these are happening when I'm not in front of the charts, and that's kind of unfortunate. to be honest with you. Um, so I'm trying to catch these when they actually set up and move. So it's been a little bit of a struggle with me on crude oil because of that. So, but overall, like I said, I'm still short this market, at least in the short term, down to here. From a fundamental standpoint, with Trump now being president and talking about more energy production, I think that will put pressure on oil prices, because if he's going to step up production here more, then that's going to push prices lower. Although on the flip side of that, it's very cold right now in North America, in a large part of the country right now, and so obviously that's driving up the utilization of like heating oil. But those cold snaps come and go, and winter's temporary. So if we get long-term supply increases, then the price is going to come down regardless of any like short-term blips and cold spells. So anyway, that's how I look at crude oil. Like I said, I'm just waiting for a setup that I can catch where we get back into the trend line area, and then I can hopefully grab a change of momentum to the downside, and that's where I'm at with that right now. So all right, so that's futures. From a standpoint of Forex, I did start a funded challenge. I only bought a $25,000 challenge, so it's pretty small. I have one open position on it right now, and that being GBP yen. So this is it right here. You can see I'm in this GBP yen. It is up about $150 right now, and so from a standpoint of target, we zoom out a little bit here. I do have my target back at this recent swing. I try to be very conservative with these, just because of the fact that they're, you have to really control risk. I don't have a big position on. You can see I don't know if you can see that. I have about 1/3 of a standard lot, three mini lots on right now on a $25,000 account because of the rules in terms of how much drawdown you can have. You have to be really careful, especially if you have more than one position on, that you don't violate the rules. So, the object here is slow and steady, and so I probably won't take many trades that are bigger than about a half a lot, just to try to like push this up little by little. I have to make, I think, $1,200 or something like that. I think it's 5% or 6%, something like that. I forget what the profit target is on this, but I'm a long way off from that. They just started it, so we'll see how it goes. I did have one other trade on here earlier that was a small loss, like $50. So that one's closed now. I actually closed it manually. I think it was on Euro Canadian. I closed it manually. I just didn't like the way it was looking, but I kept this GBP yen on, and I will hold this one. Hopefully it'll get up to our target right up here. So if we go over to trading view, bring this back out, and we'll just take another quick look at the rest of the Forex pairs that I'm looking at. So this is US dollar yen, and again, if we look at longer term 12-hour chart, we're in an uptrend. We can see that bigger trend line that we're tagging here, coming down to the third tag. So but we've had this downtrend on the shorter time frame. So we're kind of coming into a merging area here. This could make another push down towards the trend line. We haven't technically touched it yet, but I have this little line right here, which is kind of like a structure area on a shorter time frame that I'll be watching to see if we get another bounce, or if we're going to take out this trend line. So no trade right here on this right now. Dollar Canadian, not doing anything with right now. You can see we're even on the higher time frame. We're just kind of ranging in here. I had this resistance line that was, I think, part of it was part of this old high to the left that happened back in 2020. So this was almost 5 years ago, this high was put in. This is the weekly chart. So, but right now it's just not really doing too much. So until we either start moving and can establish a trend in one direction or the other, then I'm not doing anything with dollar Canadian. Dollar Swiss, on the 4-hour chart, you can see we are moving down. We had a couple of trend line touches. So on the higher time frame, we are technically still in an uptrend. I don't think it's been violated. We really have this area right in here, which is, to me, is a structure level. This on the 8-hour chart. Oops, I always do this on TradingView. It's one thing I don't like about it. Any pushes back to the trend line above the structure area, I think, is a great place for a short. Once we hit this structure area, we'll see what happens, whether we bounce and continue our uptrend or whether we're going to get a bigger downtrend push. So I'm not really interested in anything on dollar Swiss at its current level. So we'll see what price plays out. On the Aussie yen, it looks like we're trying to form a bottom here and go higher. This is the 4-hour chart, but it is a little messy. So, I'm not really doing too much with this one either right at the moment. It's really messy. When I look to the left and I just see a lot of up and down choppiness, to me, this is not a clean looking chart. Again, on a shorter time frame, there's certainly probably trading opportunities here. But for the time frames I look at, it's a little messy. So I'm just, this is not one I'm actively doing anything with right now. So Euro Canadian, this is the one where I took a loss on earlier. And I was thinking price was going to go higher after we made this high during last night. Then we came down and we had this bounce here, and I got up to about here. I got into a little profit, and then it started moving down again. I didn't like the aggressiveness of the bearish move, so I exited. And you can see that probably was a good move. I probably would have been stopped out because I had my stop sitting below this swing, and now we're sitting just below the trend line on the hourly chart. So I'll be curious to see if we get any follow through to the downside here. I don't even know what that is, which we very well could, but we'll see. Again, here on the 2-hour chart, you can really see the trend line nicely. So do we get follow through here? You can see prices just hugging right around the trend line on either side of it right now. So I'll keep an eye on this one. It is one I'm watching, but there's nothing for me to do with it right at the moment. All right, Swiss yen. Swiss yen is looking. This one I'm really watching closely. So you can see here on the 2-hour chart, we can zoom out a little bit maybe. 4-hour chart looks nice. We've had multiple touches on the trend line, and then we have this interesting phenomena where we come off a trend line, and then we start moving lower in this case, and we fail to put in a new low. You can see we came down about halfway through the zone, and then we put in this higher low, and now bullish price action to the upside. And we have breached the trend line. Now, breaching a trend line is not an automatic, change of direction, because just above here, if you look left, we do have this structure area price is coming up to. So what I'll be looking for is to see if price can get through this structure area, definitively, not just to throw a wick and some weak price action, but some really good bullish action, and then maybe a little pullback retest and then go higher. Or do we, get a resumption of the downtrend off of the reaction to this structure area? So here's the 15-minute chart. Here we are approaching that area. So, if we start to get a move back to the downside, maybe somewhere back below the trend line here, maybe below this low or somewhere over here, then I'd probably be a seller again. But again, if we continue to push higher here, then this might be a good opportunity to catch a new long move to the upside. So, this one I'm definitely watching closely. I can tell you that. So that's probably the one I'm interested in the most right now. Aussie Swiss is kind of a mess. I'm not really doing anything with that. You can see we are approaching this previous level up here. Price is really having a hard time getting through here. As I stated the other day, I'd be looking to see if price can punch through here definitively. Right now we've got multiple touches across this area, across this pink line, kind of equal highs, which can be a retail trap where you can get price to wick through here, kind of like a fake out and then turn and go lower. But we do have this, upward sloping trend line. So we're kind of coming into a merging here of the trend line and this overhead resistance. So the range is getting narrower and narrower. So eventually something's got to break where either we dump back to the downside or we, pop through here and go higher. So right now, though, as long as it's in between these two areas, I'm not really too interested in it. But I'll keep an eye on it. This is going to probably need, at least a couple of days to play out, unless there's some news that, that gets it going. So GBP USD, I'm actually looking at this pair now just to expand the horizon a little bit. It's much like some of the other pairs we looked at. We've got this downsloping trend line. Price is now approaching again, so it'll be interesting as it gets towards the trend line. Are we going to get a rollover and back down, or are we going to punch through here and go higher? If we punch through, we do still have this swing area sitting above here. This was the last swing high before this low was put in on this time frame. This is the 12-hour time frame, and we did potentially put in a higher low here. We were kind of trying to go lower, and then we had this big bullish candle right here, and then we've kind of chopped around, but we're still technically making new highs here, a higher low right here. So this does have some bullish feel to it, but until I see if this trend line is going to hold, and we're so close to it now, I'm not necessarily looking to trade it right now. I want to see what happens as we approach the trend line. But again, even on the 4-hour chart, we are making higher highs, higher lows, and so I do think that we will continue to see at least a little bit more push back towards this trend line, and then we'll see, where it goes after that. Do we, hit this trend line, get some bearish price action, then go down and make the new low? Or are we going to, punch through here and at least go up and challenge this previous swing area from the higher time frame? So, but again, it's in a spot right now where I'm not going to touch it. We'll let it play out. This won't take long of where it is now. I mean, really, this could play out in a matter of a couple of candles, depending on what the catalyst is. Okay, and pound yen I already showed you on the funded account, but essentially, again, we've got this overhead. We've got this longer term trend line that was breached, but we do have this resistance or previous swing area up above, that for any long-term break, this would have to be taken out. But there is room for it to run a little further up. I have my take profit I showed you right about at this swing area right here, which is just above where it is now. It's just a conservative target because right above that, we've got some real bearish price action. So I wouldn't be surprised if it goes higher, but again, just for the purpose of my funded account, I'd be happy with that and then wait and see what happens. If it does move towards the trend, towards this swing area, whether it punches through and goes higher, or whether at that point we look to roll over and continue the downtrend, and this just turns out to be a big fake out of this downtrend. So that's where I'm at right now. But the break of the trend line is noticeable, and obviously when it did break, it broke with a really strong bullish candle right here, and then we did put in a higher low, and we're going higher. So I do think this area up here is a reasonable short-term target, and then if it gets through there, then it probably will go significantly higher. So I'll keep a very close eye on pound yen, and even if I do hit my take profit, I'll stand by and see what it does after that. And if it plays out, then I certainly would look to re-enter. So pound yen, Swiss yen are probably the two that I'm watching the closest right now. Dollar yen also potentially too. Yeah, and that's about it. Those are basically the ones that I'm watching right now. So, and pound dollar. So pound yen, pound dollar, dollar yen, and dollar Swiss are kind of the ones that have my interest the most right now. Dollar Swiss to a little less degree. So, all right. So, so I'm going to leave it there. I hope that helps. And again, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, leave questions, comments below, and we'll be back with another update. All right, guys, take care. Have a great night, and we'll talk to everybody soon.